Christmas Incorporated is a pretty great Hallmark film. This was released in 2015, directed by Jonathan Wright, written by Brook, Durham. And in general, I really enjoyed the narrative, and I was actually emotionally invested in it. I wanted the best for the protagonist. There is a mystery surrounding the core premise, which I will discuss in a moment, and I genuinely wanted to know how this would resolve itself. However, I do feel like the resolution, or the way in which the the climax before the resolution came about, I felt was quite forced and just lazy. And I will discuss that, but without spoilers, I will do my best. This focuses on our character Riley Vance, played by Shenae Grimes-Beech, and she lands this pretty great job, but it's unfortunately down to mistaken identity. And she learns this really quickly early on in the film. And we know this, but nobody else does. But she has to accompany her new boss on a trip. They are going to save this toy factory that is failing. And while she's there, she helps to come up with some really great ideas to help save this factory. And she's doing really well in her job. She's getting on very well with her boss, William Young, played by Steve Lund. Everything seems to be going great, but when you're watching it, you just know that at some point, something will happen to reveal that she is not who they think she is. Now, I will say it's not her fault. They called her name, they called her Riley V. They referred to all of the candidates by their first name and their initial. Not really sure why. And obviously she went along and got the job quite early on, and then went on this trip. So technically not her fault. She didn't lie about who she was. Once she found out, though, that it was mistaken identity, she didn't own up. But it was just pure coincidence that she found out, because she caught a glance of this person's CV and realised the name was different. Now, I do have a few questions. When she signed the contract, why did she not speak up and say, "This is not my name"? Now, we didn't get to see her signing any employment contracts, but I'm just assuming that she had to. And if she falsely signed that document pretending to be somebody else, that's a serious criminal offence. Now, this was a romantic comedy Hallmark film. Let's not get into that. But for me, that was a big gaping error very early on. And maybe I'm overthinking it. You can enjoy the rest of the film without thinking about that, but it did just make me think, well, you've obviously had to have signed a legally binding contract under this new position, and if you falsely signed that claiming to be somebody else, I don't know what the sentence would be, but you could definitely go to prison for that. So that was a bit of an issue. But let's say that didn't happen and she hadn't signed a contract. Let's say she was just doing some free work before the contract got signed to make sure she was happy in the role, because yeah, that would happen. The way in which the penny drops, she could have easily just continued to deny it and say, "No, I didn't know. I thought I was hired under my own name." She could have easily just continued to lie and get out of it without causing all of these problems. So that itself was also a really big issue, and I feel like there were a lot of things in this that were unrealistic, big plot holes, definitely didn't work. Now, despite all of those negative things, as I said, I did enjoy this. And that's because I liked Riley as protagonist, I liked William as a love interest, I liked the fact they were trying to save a toy factory at Christmas. Great fun, toys are a lot of fun. Very festive, beautiful festive colours, costumes, lights, very merry. So when you choose to ignore the massive gaping plot holes and unrealistic situations, it is good fun. As I said, they could have maybe got around it by saying she hadn't yet signed a contract, which is unbelievable, but more believable than her having signed a contract and falsely claiming to be somebody else under legal circumstances. You could also, if they'd decided that she could just admit that she didn't know it, and just pretend that she never knew that they thought she was somebody else, because apart from that one glimpse at that person's CV on a different table, there's no reason that she would have known. Again, sans the legal contract. So she could have just, not let the truth be told, or just pretended otherwise, and she would have got away with it. So, massive issues, unrealistic, unbelievable, huge plot holes, but otherwise festive and fun and enjoyable. Give it a watch, but just bear those things in mind, because if you're anything like me, they will annoy you. You may think I'm being over-analytical, but if I wrote this, let's say I wrote this as a novel, and I sent this to an editor or to a publisher, those massive plot holes would be picked apart. I'd be labelled as a bad writer, that I couldn't construct stories, that my character actions were unbelievable, that the story was unrealistic. So as a writer, I can't help but focus on those things. But the rest of it, jolly, merry, and a lot of fun. Christmas Incorporated, despite how it sounds, is actually a really fun Hallmark film. If you're looking for something festive and delightful, if you can look past the problems, I think you'll really enjoy it.